Today, we are here with Pam Doherty, one of the most familiar faces at Camarillo United Methodist Church. We thought we might be able to sit down and chat with Pam, and she has graciously agreed.
Good morning. Hello.
Good morning, Pam.
Thank you so much for being here in my little office.
Little office. This is a lot bigger than I was expecting. I came here not knowing, I knew about the closet. I did not know your setup. So seeing here, you've got this nice cabinet, this nice desk, a dedicated space for this. So it's more impressive. And I'm seeing now, we came in here and you were already on a call with somebody.
Yeah.
Conveying with them, where they could get additional supplies. That really stood out to me. I was like, oh, wow, she's already in this. This is a full-time job for you. This isn't something that's a couple hours here and there. You're doing a lot of things all the time.
Yeah, we're pretty busy all the time. I get calls. We're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. And some days our couple of biggest days, we had 18 people actually come for help. Phone calls, we usually get anywhere from 3 to 8 a day. But they usually take a little bit of time. And we really coordinate with people what they can get from us and what they can get from other people. So yeah, it does take time. And our space here is really great because this is actually a worship space for the Japanese American church. They do the Japanese service in this room. So when they told me that I could, trustees told me we could have the desk in here, I wanted something that wouldn't invade the worship space. And so this is a cabinet and everything closes up. So it looks kind of messy and crazy now, but I close it up and it just looks like a nice piece of furniture in the worship space. So glad you're impressed.
How long have you led the Camarillo Medical Supplies Project?
Well, we were working out of the office before, just out of the church office. So I started working as the church secretary in January 2012. And we all did it. There were 3 of us working in the room, and people would just come and we'd say, here's the key, there's the room, get what you want, get what you need. The room was actually a mess too. It was a storage room and people were just throwing stuff in there and it rarely got organized. So that inspired me a few years later to go in and get a bunch of volunteers and take everything out, bring in an organizer, a friend of mine who does professional organization, and we put everything back in an organized fashion. So I started working with it back in 2012, but this program itself, nobody really knows when it began. It began as a closet, probably back in the 70s or 80s for people just to put stuff that belonged to the church. And then it's just grown from there.
How many are helped in a typical month?
That's been exciting because I started the awareness campaign earlier this year. And I was tracking when I started doing this full time, technically in January, I started tracking our activity. And the first quarter, we had about 35 people a week. And then the last time I tracked it, which was the third quarter, we were up at about 65 people a week. So it's really exciting that more and more people are finding out about us.
What's the most interesting example of someone that you've been able to help or how you've been able to help?
Well, that's really very exciting. I'm going to tell you 2 stories, if that's okay. We don't have everything here that everybody needs, but we have very good connections with organizations that have found out about us. So the local Gold Coast Veterans Foundation found out about us a few years ago, and I've been working very closely with their CEO. Just this year, they decided to end storing stuff in their place and just bring it here because they know we're a consistent place that their clients can come to. But a couple of years ago, I don't know how they did it, but they got a whole bunch of brand new wheelchairs in boxes. And they told me if we ever have a veteran or a veteran's family member who needs one, to send them over. So I did that a couple of times. But just a couple of months ago, a gentleman was here that I've been working with for a couple of years. His wife has been declining in her health, and he has to take care of her. She, is not ambulatory. Very sweet lady. He always has her with him. He was here one day and struggling to get a wheelchair that would fit her. She's a little heavy, and she was wearing him out. And he was all excited about this wheelchair that he got at the thrift store for $10, but it didn't have footrests. Well, this gentleman from the Gold Coast Foundation was here and heard me talking to him and asked him, "Are you a veteran?" And he said, "Oh yeah, I am." He had a ball cap on. And he says, "I have a wheelchair for you." And so they sat there and talked in the parking lot about getting the wheelchair, him following him literally right then and there to go get the wheelchair. So it excites me just to be part of the connection that people are able to get what they need through different people that come here and connect. We have really interesting stories like that, but I'm only thinking of the ones currently. Last week, we do a little bit of pickup of supplies. People end up with things like Hoyer lifts, which is a huge lift that you can pick up a whole person in and roll them around to wherever you need to take them. And my dad and I went and picked one up just last Wednesday. And I had one before, and it sat here for over a year. So I was a little worried because they're big. The next day, a woman called and needed it, and my dad and my husband are delivering it to them right now. So it's interesting how you get something unusual and then someone needs it the very next day. So
That's providence right there.
Yeah, it is.
What are your hopes for the future of the medical supply closet?
So even before I decided to, quit working in the church office and take this on full time, I had this dream that the medical supply room would be like the food share of durable medical equipment in our area. So I don't know if you know fully how food share works over in, I guess it's in Oxnard or Ventura.
I've volunteered there.
Oh, you do?
I've actually worked with Monica White.
Okay, so you do know, because what's exciting about them is they collect all this food, but then they take it to different distribution centers, which years ago, I didn't realize that. I just learned that a year or so ago. And my dad has worked there for years, and my husband volunteers there now. So I see, because people have to drive kind of far to get to us. I've had people from Santa Barbara call me. I've had people come from Simi Valley, Moore Park, come all the way out here for walkers and wheelchairs. And so I'm really excited to try to expand it. Maybe not exactly the way Food Share works, but I'd like to see us have a location maybe in Ventura, maybe one in Oxnard, just so people can get to them easier, because most people who need these supplies are having health problems, or they're taking care of family members and their schedules are really tight and their resources are very limited.
How can people help the Camarillo Medical Supply Closet?
And I want to clarify the name of it too. I'll give you a little exciting story about that too. How can they help? We really need people to know that they can donate things to us. I've had a lot of people come to us and say, "I wish I knew about you sooner," because, they took the wheelchair to one of the thrift stores. And that's okay, but when people have a health problem, they don't think of the thrift store. Or if they do think of the thrift store, they're going to go and they won't have what they need. But if they know about us, then they can bring it here, and we're the central location that more people know about. Home health care providers, physical therapists, the doctor's offices, the hospitals, they all refer to us. So we really need people. That's part of the awareness campaign, was really to get the word out that we're here so we get the supplies. And then that leads to people knowing that they can come here and get things from us as well. Oh, and the name. So the name of this thing it's my computer. I put a little Halloween thing on my computer.
I like that.
Anyway, the name has always been kind of funny because, Pastor Gary even calls it the medical supply closet all the time, and I get very insulted by that, but that's okay. Now it's bigger. But then in August of this year, we decided to dedicate it to Reverend Craig LeBreton. And so we technically call it the Craig LeBreton Medical Supply Room. That was good.
I think we should actually keep that because it's kind of dramatic.
That. A little I've heard that Reverend Craig had a very great sense of humor, so if he could control that, he probably would have done that. I can tell you more about that, but I'm not sure if that's in your timing right now,
Sure,
Reverend Craig.
right?
As I said before, it was a very casual operation, mostly just people within the church spreading the word. And then Reverend Craig LeBreton was working here as a part-time pastor in charge of visitation and ministry like that. And then he started working at the Camarillo Healthcare District in a leadership role. I guess he had a whole bunch of different titles, so I don't even want to try to go there. And he started recognizing the need in the community, and he knew we had this little space that we were doing this whole durable medical equipment loan thing. So he got the Camarillo Healthcare District together with the church, and they started referring people to us. And that's where the donations and the borrowing started to really grow. And that was back in the 80s sometimes. Reverend LeBreton passed away a couple of years ago, so we never found out from him exactly when that happened. And even people who were working with him at the healthcare district don't know exactly when. So that's why it's kind of cool.
That's the way memory works, right?
Yeah.
It just kind of fades.
Yeah, I think that it's really important that, yes, we do know what our past is, but we're really in the moment and trying to help people right now.
So all this is not just about the closet. We're also interested in you.
Oh, okay.
Because we find it fascinating that you've dedicated yourself to this and really made it a focus. So for fun, here are some questions for you.
Okay.
One word to describe yourself.
One word. Motivated.
Motivated? I like that. That's good. Funniest thing that has happened at United Methodist Church.
Gosh, there's a lot with the kids, but I was wedding coordinator here quite a few years ago, and for like 7 years or something. And we would keep the bride and all the girls in what's called Howard Parlor, which is off the patio area. It's disconnected from the sanctuary. And then the groomsmen and the groom would all be in the choir room, which is right next to the sanctuary. And I had a special way of going and getting the girls and bringing them down the hallway and getting them into the sanctuary without the groom seeing them. And so I had a very excited bunch, bride and girls. And I had everybody in place. Pastor was in place. We were all ready to march down. And I go to Howard Parlor to find them, and they're not there. The girls had just taken it upon themselves to, fly out and go to the back of the church and enter from the entrance. But I didn't know that. So I was looking for them all over the place. So it was a little bit of a panic, and I did finally find them, and everything went well. So that to me was pretty funny, because just that moment of, they're not here. The bride is lost.
Tell us something that we don't know about you.
Something you don't know about me. You two don't know that I did clown ministry here with the youth. It was something that kind of got started back in the 70s, I guess. I have a whole set of books, and usually they pretty much mime different kinds of skits and stories. So the kids would dress up as clowns. And, we went through a whole process of kind of training them how to use their bodies and their facial expressions. And we would, like one Christmas, we did a serious skit. So some of them are serious and some of them are funny. And you take on the clown face to kind of die to self and be something else. And we did skits at Christmas where the clowns would take presents up. Two clowns were very proud of these giant presents they were taking up to the altar and, sauntering around. And then a hobo clown, poor, has nothing, just comes and puts a bow on itself and offers itself as the gift. And then the very proud clowns realize that that's more important, so they put the bows on their heads. So it was skits like that that were very touching and usually funny and kind of over the top, but then they had a nice, serious, spiritual, God type meaning. So that was quite a few years ago. It's kind of scary to think of now, but it was actually very fun.
So you've worn like a lot of hats here.
Yes, I guess I have.
So what's been your favorite hat so far?
Working with the youth.
Working with the youth.
Yeah, I help our youth director, Christy, and it's just very inspiring, very exciting. It's fun to be around the young people who have all these new ideas. They keep you on your toes, and I'm surprised they still like having me around. I feel like I'm getting older and older, but they're still okay with me.
What keeps you coming back to Camarillo United Methodist Church and the Medical Supply Project?
What keeps me coming back to the church is I keep growing spiritually here. I'm very challenged spiritually here, and I think that's a very good thing. You can come and just be comfortable and hang out, or you can come and dive in and get involved and be very much challenged. And I think that's what I need, is to be challenged, because that's the best way that I grow. So I feel like I get a lot of spiritual growth here from all the people, all the different experiences that we have. We don't do just the same thing all the time nowadays, and I like that. Why I keep coming back to the medical supply room? One more little story. Several years ago, I broke my ankle hiking. It was kind of a fun experience. We were out at Sturtevant with the youth group, of course. Headed out, we'd been there for the weekend, and you have to hike into this camp. Like, I think it's almost 6 miles. You can't drive into it, so you have to carry all your stuff, or they have donkeys that'll carry stuff. And had a great weekend. We're headed out. I looked at my watch, and I was telling Jack Wright what time it was, and I hit a few rocks and went down. And so I'd broken my ankle. So Pastor Gary even had to call in a helicopter because I couldn't hike out, and luckily, the helicopter pad is right next to Sturtevant. But they still had to drag me up a really narrow, crazy path, and I got a helicopter ride, and I would have rather not had the broken ankle. But I remember through that healing process, there were different pieces of equipment that I needed that helped me. But what I remember the most is, God, I am not using this for the medical supply room. This is not fair. I do not want to be healing. I did not want a knee scooter, all that cool stuff, even though it looked cool, scooting around all over the place. But I think it gave me a real sensitivity to people who need things temporarily. That's really the key with what we're doing. We do provide permanent equipment for people because there's no questions asked. Just take what you need. But I think that the people who get it temporarily are the ones that it really means a lot to also. So I think that's what kind of moved me into that. When I left my corporate job at WellPoint Health Networks, it was a health insurance company. It's Anthem now. I was leaving the corporate high-pressure life, coming here to just be a secretary, quote, which was really fun. But before I became the secretary, I went through certified nursing assistant training. I thought I wanted to be a home health provider. I wanted to be more face-to-face with people and providing for their needs. And so this was kind of a better transition, because being a home health care provider, a certified nursing assistant, is very hard physically. And starting that in your 50s is not the best idea. So all of that kind of in a mixed up fashion really has brought me to the medical supply room, I feel like, and that was the inspiration, and I guess that's what keeps me going.
If you could change anything at Camarillo United Methodist Church, what would it be?
Wow, that's a really big question. What would I change? I don't think there's a magic wand that I could wave to change it.
So if you were to, I don't know, come into money, or somebody had a big donation, where would you direct it then?
Where would I direct it? I would probably direct it to supporting the staff in their ideas. I feel very strongly about our staff here, and I think they're very creative and have really great ideas. And I would like to see them and, the leadership be able to do what they really want to do. I would like to facilitate that. I'm more of a facilitator than the one with all the ideas, I think.
Very cool. And I'm going to totally mess this one up because
Okay.
I don't even know how to properly phrase it.
Well, we'll give it a few takes,
right? Okay. If you could have God say one thing to you that you would know to be absolutely true, have him or her whisper it in your ear, what would that be?
That was good. That was very good. I guess the first thing I think of that when you said it, what popped into my head was, you're a good mom.
Very cool.
Just, it's not easy being a parent. Yeah. My kids are grown. They're in their 30s. And they tell me I was good. But it'd be nice if God did too.
Well, thank you, Pam Doherty, for this time with us and sharing your time.
Sure.
And Alec and I both appreciate everything that you've said.
Well, thank you so much. I really am happy to have the opportunity to speak.